good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you exist in this world. If you are ready to gain access to this thing, I'm going to leave a link below in the description or, wherever it might show up for you to. It'll just be a link for you to connect to our Discord room, and then we'll chat from there. Because this, we're not just going to open this database up to anybody on the planet. Like, this is going to be something where you need to have some experience, and we need to kind of talk about a few things. So check the link. All right, let's get to it. So this morning over in this area pre-market, before we had any of our actual, New York session data showing up, we had our most likely time to put in a high at 3:30 to 4 a.m. All right. And then we look over here. We'll get back to that in a second. So 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the morning is our most likely high. All right. So let's flip over. Let's go look. What time is this? Our high was put in at 4 o'clock. That checks out. That's pretty awesome. What's our most likely time to put in a low? It's looking like right at the open, 9:30 to 10. And then we continue to try to put in lows for the rest of the day, it would seem. It's just by looking at this, you can tell the difference in the two. But, we'll get into that at some other time. So if we flip back over and we're looking, actually, let's look here. Let's go say our high of day reach was 1.6%. So we look here. We go back into our data. Where is 1.6%? That's way out here in this anomalous zone. So that's telling us the chances of us really getting out here, especially knowing that high of day is supposedly already in with a much higher chance of low of day at the open, that's telling us probably going to short the open. So as we got closer to the open, we started to pay attention, and then we decided to take the short with a possible add up here, right? And there was an 80% chance or so to get back up here, but it significantly dropped as we continued up, but there was a 90+% chance to go sweep this low. So we take the short, expecting to add if we popped, and then, we would have just continued down, but that's not what happened. We ended up just coming down, get out of our trade somewhere down here around the sweep, and that's our trade for the day. If you wanted to try to bounce this, there were a couple of places we talked about where you could have tried to bounce it, and your target would have ultimately been to get up here back to 930. And it's not to say that it won't at some point, but there were several reasons we went over in the room today that we weren't really, or at least that I wasn't looking to try to take it all the way back up there. We were trying to set up this nice bounce, but there were a couple of, signals that were kind of being thrown out to say, no, there's not enough there to get us up there. And we want to get back down and maybe try to tag this weekly open if we can, right? There's some stats around that as well. So I don't really think there's much else. I mean, it's a pretty simple recap today. We can jump back and say that as the data started to show itself, some of these things started to really kind of give us a better idea of where we were, what we were doing. Once the data really gave us an inkling, we just knew we were right. Because this low of day data was really, other than a couple of little anomalous areas here, this 3 a.m. ended up really, really wanting to be the high of day. So, there we are. It's a pretty simple day. A trade to the low side. If you wanted to try to bounce it on this harmonic completion, there was that. But it was really only a legitimately decent sized scalp. Otherwise, not really much else going on. So that's all we have for today. If you are interested in popping in this room, I am going to leave a link in the description of how you can get into the room and start accessing some of the information in this database. I hope everybody had a good day. See you.